and welcome to American Institute of Extended Studies. My name is Ebony. Today we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence in leadership. Now, did you know that the technical skills that helped you secure your first promotion, it may not guarantee your next? If you aspire to be in a leadership role, there's an emotional element you need to consider. It's what helps you successfully coach teams, manage stress, deliver feedback, and collaborate with others. It's called emotional intelligence and accounts for nearly 90% of what sets high performers apart from peers with similar technical skills and knowledge. Now, when you think of a perfect leader, what comes to mind? You might picture someone who's never let their temper get out of control, no matter what the problem they're facing. Or you might think of someone who has the complete trust of their staff, listen to their team, is easy to talk to, and always make careful, informed decisions. These are qualities of someone with a high degree of emotional intelligence. Now, in this webinar, we will look at why emotional intelligence is so important for leaders and how you, as a leader, can improve yours. Stay tuned as we cover the following points. What is emotional intelligence? The importance of improving your emotional EQ, strategies, and also tools. Now, let's hit on what is emotional intelligence, or EI. It is the ability to understand and manage your own emotions and those of the people around you. People with a high degree of emotional intelligence know what they're feeling, what their emotions mean, and how these emotions can affect other people. For leaders, having emotional intelligence is essential for success. After all, who is more likely to succeed? A leader who shouts at his team when he's under stress, or a leader who stays in control and calmly assesses the situation? Now, according to Daniel Goleman, an American psychologist who helped to popularize emotional intelligence, says that there are 5 elements to emotional intelligence. And the first one is self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. The more that you as a leader manage each of these areas, the higher your emotional intelligence will be. So let's look at each element in more detail and explain how you can grow as a leader. And we're going to cover the 5 elements of emotional intelligence. The first one is self-awareness. Self-awareness is at the core of everything. It describes your ability to not only understand your strengths and weaknesses, but to recognize your emotions and the effect they have on you and your team's performance. Now, according to research by organizational psychologist Tasha Erich, 95% of people think they're self-aware, but truthfully, only about 10 to 15% actually are. And that could pose problems for your employees. Working with colleagues who aren't self-aware and cut a team's success in half can contribute to those who are not aware of their emotions. According to Erich research, she stated that to increase stress and decrease emotion will bring more unity within your team. In order to bring out the best in others, you first need to bring out the best in yourself, which is self-awareness. And let's consider how that comes into play. One easy way is to assess your self-awareness. And you do that by completing a 360-degree feedback in which you evaluate your performance and then match it up against the opinions of your boss, peers, and direct reports. Through this process, you will gain insight into your own behavior and discover how you're perceived in the organization that you are a part of. Now, the second element is self-management. Self-management refers to the ability to manage your emotion, particularly in stressful situations, and maintain a positive outlook despite setbacks. Leaders who lack self-management tend to react and have a harder time keeping their impulses in check. A reaction tends to be automatic for them. The more in tune you are with your emotional intelligence, however, the easier you can make the transition from reaction to response. It's important to remember to pause, breathe, collect yourself, and do whatever it takes to manage your emotions. Whether that means taking a walk or calling a friend so that you can more appropriately and intentionally respond to stress and adversity. The third element is self awareness. While it's important to understand and manage your own emotions, you also need to know how to read a room. Self awareness describes your ability to recognize others' emotions and the dynamics in play within your organization. Leaders who excel in social awareness practice empathy. They strive to understand their colleagues' feelings and their perspectives, which enables them to communicate and collaborate more effectively with their peers. Global leadership development firm DDI ranks empathy as the number one leadership skill, reporting that leaders who master empathy perform more than 40% higher in coaching, engaging others, and decision making. In a separate study by the Center of Creative Leadership, researchers found that managers who show more empathy towards the direct reports are viewed as better performers by their boss. By communicating with empathy, you can better support your team, all while improving your individual performance. Number 4, relationship management. Relationship management refers to your ability to influence, coach, and mentor others, and resolve conflict efficiently. Some prefer to avoid conflict, but it is important to properly address issues as they arise because research shows that every unaddressed conflict can waste about 8 hours of company time in gossip and other unproductive activities. In return, that puts a drain on your resources and also the morale of your team. If you want to keep your team happy, you need to have those tough conversations. In a recent survey by the Society of Human Resource Management, 72% of employees ranked respectful treatment of all employees at all levels as a top factor in job satisfaction. The fifth element is motivation. Self-motivated leaders work consistently toward their goals, and they have extremely high standards for the quality of their work. How can you improve your motivation? Well, you can re-examine your why. Why are you doing your job? It's easy to forget what you really love about your career. So take some time to remember why you wanted this job. If you're unhappy in your role and you're struggling to remember why you wanted it, try the 5 whys technique to find the root of the problem. Starting at the root often helps you look at your situation in a new way. And make sure that your goal statements are fresh and energizing. Know where you stand. Determine how motivated you are to lead. Be helpful and find something good. Motivated leaders are usually optimistic, no matter what problems they face. Adopting your mindset, it might take some practice, but it's well worth the effort. Every time you face a challenge or even a failure at that, try to find at least one good thing about the situation. It might be something small like a new contact or something with long-term effects like an important lesson learned. But there's always, almost always something positive if you look for it. Now, why emotional intelligence matters? Well, emotional intelligence in the workplace matters more for leaders and project managers today as remote work expands widely due to COVID-19. When it comes to achieving project goals and managing cross-functional remote teams, it is important to succeed without emotional intelligence. Daniel Goleman, author of the 1995 book, Emotional Intelligence, explained in his popular Harvard Business Review article, What Makes a Leader? It is not that IQ and technical skills are relevant, he said. They do matter, but mainly as a threshold capability. What he meant was they are the entry level requirements for executive positions. It's what gets you in the door. A leader with high emotional intelligence is likely to be more effective in their duties, such as communication, problem solving, and management, because they have the primary skills required to handle their job and also a deeper understanding of themselves, their team, and how their words and action impacts success. In today's evolving world of work, there are many ways to encourage emotional intelligence in the workplace. Managers must embed the characteristics they wish to see in their employees. They do this by leading by example, practicing empathy, communicating clearly and positively, praising in public, and criticizing in private. Also, by creating a work environment that rewards emotional intelligence, listening actively, embracing feedback, providing emotional intelligent workshops or courses for their team. When you consider emotional intelligence, it is easy to understand how important it is to project managers and other leaders within their daily work. So let's look at how to improve emotional intelligence. And you can do that in a couple of ways. You can improve your emotional intelligence with training, reflection, deliberation, and practice. Starting with self-awareness, you can find and use the techniques that improve the areas of emotional intelligence you lack. Here are a few ideas to increase your emotional intelligence in the workplace. First, to build some interpersonal work relationships. The best way to do that is to practice it in real life situations. Building emotional intelligence could be of going to lunch with your coworkers, attending industry related networking events, and create relationships with people you work with. You can also lean towards the positive. You must learn to replace all your negative thoughts with positive ones. In moments of pressure, focus on amplifying the positive and leading your team with an optimistic outlook. When things go wrong, instead of hammering on the negative, which reduces team morale, you can reframe your perspective and ask, how can we do it better next time? Also, manage your stress proactively. Guys, stress is inevitable. Stress at work is almost guaranteed. So exercise, meditate, and take regular breaks from work are a few ways of reducing stress. Schedule some me time to think. As a leader or project manager, you must schedule a time during the work week to think and plan your ongoing projects. Writing in a journal, list, or within a project management tool is one of the simplest ways to increase self-awareness and emotional intelligence in the workplace. Collaborative workspaces like Wrike have personal spaces where you can outline, reorder, or keep tabs of your work and emotions. You should work and mark reoccurring subjects or areas of improvements over time. And also have a confidant or a mentor. Leaders with coaches and other confidants, perform better than leaders who handle everything on their own. It is helpful to talk to someone you trust about your emotions. It would help if this person is objective and has their own emotions in check. Talking to someone who understands your work and responsibilities help you reflect and become aware of what needs to be done. You can even ask for advice. Having a good confidant or mentor can help you build your emotional intelligence quickly. And for better enhancement, enroll in the emotional intelligence training. Becoming emotional intelligent is not a one and done deal. We can all improve in self awareness, self regulation, empathy, social skills, and also motivation. But when you know the areas you need to improve the most, you can enroll in an online or offline emotional training course. Now, let's look at measuring EI when hiring. During the selection process, staffing managers are usually interested in education, skills, experience of the job candidate, and cognitive ability. Another key indicator of success in the workplace is, you guessed it, emotional intelligence, commonly known as EI. Emotional intelligence is the ability of a person to identify, evaluate, and manage personal feelings and those of others, and also individuals or groups. While technical skills may be learned through observation and on the job experience, it is a long process for a person to develop emotional intelligence through training. Recent surveys indicated that over 71% of employers value emotional intelligence over IQ. This is a staggering statistics, you guys, but it shows how much emotional intelligence can be a factor in overall workplace success. Just like cognitive skills are measured through testing, emotional skills can also be measured. To assess the level of EI when hiring, you may want to use a combination of testing and your gut instinct. Specific observations and behavioral questions during the interview can give insight into a candidate's EI. Questions such as those that seek to determine whether an employee admits their mistake when they arise and learn from them, and questions geared to see how they take criticism are examples. Other observations, such as seeing if the person listens as much as they talk, or they talk more than they listen, are very good indicators. Commonly used emotional intelligence testing, including the Mayer, Salvi, Coastal Emotional Intelligence Test, MSCEIT, and the Bar on Emotional Quantitative Test modules. These tests present emotional situations to test takers and then have the respondent choose their reaction to the described situation. One of the biggest problems with these tests lies in what researchers call self-reporting biases. Employees with a high level of self-awareness are more likely to have a strong emotional intelligence. A candidate who conveys the ability to control compulsion without jumping to conclusion is better poised to succeed at work than those who act on impulse. People who understand themselves have the ability to understand their emotions, especially those emotions that may affect their performance at the workplace. Assessment of emotional intelligence helps a a staffing organization determine how well a candidate will perform in terms of development, leadership, teamwork, and organizational building. Will also help them understand that candidates' credibility, global versatility, and social responsibility. Including emotional intelligence testing in your overview of candidate skills is a powerful way to ensure you hire employees who will be a good fit for your corporate culture and help lead company success. Now let's look at the history of emotional intelligence. Peter Salve and John D. Mayer coined the term emotional intelligence in 1990. They describe it as a form of social intelligence that involves the ability to monitor one's own and other feelings and emotions, to discern among them, and to use this information to guide one's thinking and action. Salavi and Mayer also initiated a research program intended to develop valid measures of emotional intelligence and to explore its significance. For instance, they found in one study that when a group of people saw an upsetting film, those who scored high on emotional clarity, which is the ability to identify and give a name to a mood that is being experienced, recovered more quickly. In another study, individuals who scored higher in the ability to perceive accurately, understand, and appraise others' emotions were better able to respond flexibly to changes in their social environments and build supportive social networks. In the 1990s, Daniel Goleman became aware of Salavi's and Meyer's work, and this eventually led to his book, Emotional Intelligence. Goleman was a science writer for the New York Times, specializing in brain and behavioral research. He trained as a psychologist at Harvard, where he worked with David McClendon, among others. McClendon was among a growing group of researchers who were becoming concerned with how little traditional tests of cognitive intelligence told us about what it takes to be successful in life. Goleman argued that it was not cognitive intelligence that guaranteed business success, but emotional intelligence. He described emotional intelligent people as those with four characteristics. They were good at understanding their own emotions, self awareness. They were good at managing their emotions, self management. They were empathetic to the emotional drivers of other people, which was self awareness. They were good at handling others' emotions, social skills. Now that you understand the story, we can now look at a few examples. As personality, they differ from person to person. The creation of emotional intelligence in the workplace takes effort. Anyone who has ever worked in a toxic work environment can attest to the importance of increasing empathy in those spaces. People with high emotional intelligence can lead the charge to multiply examples of EI in the workplace. Here are some examples of what emotional intelligence in the workplace look like. People express themselves openly and respectfully without fear of offending coworkers or being reprimanded. Their resilience is evident when new initiatives are introduced. Flexibility is very present. Employees spend time together outside of work. Freedom of creativity is celebrated and consistent. Active listening in meetings is the norm. Employees will find a compassionate ear when needed, as we all have bad days. The perception of leadership would be that of a leader who squashes their emotions. In today's workplace, an effective leader can monitor and utilize emotions in such a way to regulate and motivate not only themselves, but those around them. Healthy workplace environments doesn't happen by accident. They're intentional because leaders are intentional. Example of EI from the movie The Pursuit of Happiness. If you really look at the movie, It is based on a true story and displays some brilliant examples of emotional intelligence. The character who was self managing, committed, empathetic, had social skills, and relationship building throughout the entire film. The main character's ability to overcome circumstances that were so dire shows incredible perseverance. However, there was also example how low emotional intelligence in the film could look like. The lack of empathy from his wife when she left him to take care of herself is a prime example. Several outbursts were understandable, understandable, and yet good examples of when emotions overtake someone in a crisis. When someone exhibits low measures of EQ, there are many ways it can be behavioral visible. Here are a few examples of what it looks like when someone is operating with low levels of EQ. A person with low EQ will likely have emotional outbursts, typically out of proportion to the situation at hand. People with low EQ also have difficulty listening to others. Becoming argumentative is another example of behavior that is very explicit from someone with low EQ. Another sign of low EQ is blaming others. Another example is believing that others are overly sensitive because the person with EQ cannot understand how others feel. Also, difficulty in managing friendship and other relationships with others is another sign. Stonewalling or refusing to see other points of view is an example. Now, let's look at some of the key takeaways from today. Increasing emotional intelligence in any setting will deepen levels of human understanding and functionality. Improvements in empathy, social skills, self awareness, motivation, and self regulation will serve anyone. Being intelligent is great, but knowing how to use that intelligence is something even more impactful. The fact that these abilities can be cultivated and nurtured is an exciting concept. A culture with more individuals who score high in emotional intelligence, we would see less violence and dysfunction. This culture would instead see higher levels of cooperation and human connection. A high EI culture will be able to resolve conflicts and have functional communication between human beings. An effort to increase these abilities should be a fundamental part of every organization and family. Feelings, they should not be ignored, but rather taught as signals to cue appropriate responses, not reactions, but responses and behavior. Imagine the possibility if a culture embraced emotions not as indulgent, but rather as informative to make better decisions. Again, my name is Ebony, and the staff, myself, thank you for joining this recorded webinar that is presented by American Institute of Extended Studies. Don't forget to connect with us on LinkedIn and Facebook. You guys have an amazing day, and we will see you next time.